In this video, we're going to discuss the StringBuilder class in C#. First, we're going to start with an introduction to StringBuilder, why use StringBuilder, what are the advantages, the key features of StringBuilder, and I'm going to, as always, use some practical code examples. If you like my videos, please hit the like button, subscribe, and now let's go straight to the code examples, and then we're going to go over the definitions, look at some more code, and finally discuss the advantages of using StringBuilder. Now let's start with a code example, which demonstrates the use of StringBuilder. We are going to use string concatenation, and I'm going to create two separate loops, one that uses string and another one which uses StringBuilder, and then I'm going to time each execution and see if there is any difference. So let's start with that. I'm going to create my string result, and I'm going to create my loop where we're going to perform the string concatenation. We're going to do this 100,000 times in order to time it properly and hopefully see the difference. And outside the loop, let's remove the last comma. So we're going to go result equals result. We're going to use trim end and remove the last comma. And now let's do the same thing using StringBuilder. Let's create my StringBuilder object. Let me just copy this part of the code. And inside the loop, we're going to basically perform the same operation, but this time using StringBuilder and the StringBuilder append method. And we're going to go append one more time. We're going to append the comma. And again, I'm going to remove the last comma. So we're going to make this result equals StringBuilder to string, and let's just copy this code here. And that is basically all that we need to do. And now let's time each one of these executions, and then I'm going to explain the code, but first let's see if there is any difference. I'm going to use stopwatch, and we're going to start our stopwatch right here. Start. And we're going to stop it right here. So let's do that, and let's print it to the console. Right line, we're going to do using string concatenation, and let's print the stopwatch elapsed milliseconds. And now let's restart our stopwatch right here. Restart, and again we're going to print it, stop it right here, and print StringBuilder using StringBuilder. Okay, and do I need to do anything else? No, it doesn't look like it. Okay, let's run the code and see if there is any difference when it comes to the time it takes to execute each one of these loops. Okay, let me make this bigger. You can see that using string concatenation took 8,527 milliseconds, and using StringBuilder took only 2 milliseconds. So there's obviously quite a huge difference. First, maybe let's look at the StringBuilder definition and some of the advantages and use cases. And then we're going to go back to the code and see why there's such a huge difference when it comes to the execution time. What is StringBuilder in C#? StringBuilder in C# is a class which is found in the system text namespace, and it is designed to represent a mutable string of characters, and is also used to efficiently manipulate strings. Now, let's quickly go over the advantages offered by StringBuilder, and then we're going to go back to our code example. Here are some of the advantages of the StringBuilder. In C#, the strings are actually immutable. On the other hand, the StringBuilder can be modified, which means that it is mutable and the modifications to the StringBuilder object do not result in the creation of a new object. This is actually quite important, and when we go back to our code, I'm going to explain it in a little bit more detail. The StringBuilder is also very efficient, and it is much more efficient for operations that involve frequent string modifications. It is also dynamically resizable, which means that we don't need to define its size. When we create the StringBuilder, it can actually grow as your string manipulation requirements change, and it comes with several methods that are quite useful. The append method that we already used in the code, and also append line, insert, remove, replace, clear, and some others. And the StringBuilder is quite useful in cases where you have to concatenate or modify strings within loops in order to improve your performance and make your code faster. Now let's go back to our code and see why there is such a huge difference between the execution times of these two loops, where the first one we use regular string concatenation, and in the second one we use the StringBuilder object. So the strings in C# are actually immutable, which means that once you create a string, you cannot change it. And if you take a look at this line here, it might look like we're changing the string, but what actually happens is each time this line is executed, a new string object is created, and our variable reference is simply updated to the new string object. And this is obviously very inefficient. As we saw, it is much slower. Unlike the strings, the StringBuilder is actually mutable, and it has been specifically designed to efficiently handle string modifications. And inside our loop, again, each number I is appended to the StringBuilder object followed by the comma, and the append method actually modifies the internal buffer of the StringBuilder without creating new string object for each modification. So this line here does not create a new string object, unlike this line here in our first loop. And since we are not creating a new string object each time this loop executes, the StringBuilder approach is much more efficient. Now let's take a look at another code example where we're going to use StringBuilder. And this is actually a good code example that shows you that you should be careful. You don't have to always use StringBuilder, or sometimes the advantages that you get are really tiny, and maybe you should not over-optimize your code. But let's first build a code example, and then we're going to talk about that quickly. First, I'm going to create my array of strings. Let's call it colors. And I'm going to have several colors inside my array. Let's make it white, pink, and green, black, and blue, and let's leave it at that for now. And I'm going to create my StringBuilder again. And now we're going to start building our HTML. So begin HTML. Okay, we're going to use the append line method, and we're going to build a very simple HTML page. Okay, so it is doc type HTML, and again we're going to use append line, add the HTML tag, and let's just copy a few more lines. Head, and we're going to have our page title, and let's call it sample page, and we need to close the head tag. And we open the body tag. Okay, let's do welcome to my page. Okay, the caps locks. Welcome to my page. Append line. We're going to print the items that we have at the top, the colors. So let's do that next. And for each item in colors. Let's be consistent. And pen line. Okay. And we're going to put the color in the middle. And we need to close our tag right here. And we need to close the body and the HTML as well. Body and HTML. And finally, we're going to create our HTML document string equals StringBuilder to string, and let's simply print it to the console. That's it. Okay, so let's run the program quickly. Let me bring this here, and you see that we have our HTML document printed to the console with all the colors shown as well. Now, this is a very small example which demonstrates how we can use StringBuilder to construct an HTML document, and this is similar for XML or any other markup language where you might need to dynamically create content. But in this example, the difference between using a string builder and actually string concatenation is not that great. Why? Because we have only a few items here. We have only 5 items in our array. And the difference between using string builder and string concatenation is going to be rather small, so you're not going to gain insanely better performance, which means that you need to be careful. If you have some legacy code, for example, you might leave it as is if it uses string concatenation. But on the other hand, if instead of only a handful of items you're dealing with huge data set, this is some massive list or some massive array that you're pulling from your database, then switching from string concatenation to using string builder might give you much better performance, and it might actually be worth doing so. Now let's take a look at my last code example. This time we're not going to use the append or append line methods of the string builder. We're going to use some of the other methods such as the replace, insert, and remove methods, just to demonstrate how you might use string builder in your code. Let's assume that we have a very large script or text that we need to manipulate. I'm using a simple load script method, and this is my text. It's obviously quite small in my example. Imagine that this is a very large text, massive, and using string builder is going to give you the performance that you're after. Is going to speed up your code and make it more resource efficient. So let's take a look at the code and see what it does. First, we create our string builder object and we initialize it with the content of the existing script. Basically, we're using one of the string builder overloaded constructors, and then we use the replace method to replace a specific variable name. And this is our old variable name, which you can find here. The next few lines of code, insert a comment before the specific line. We find the specific line of code. Again, it is right here. And we insert this comment before that line. And finally, we use string builder to remove a specific pattern or line. In our case, we're going to use it to remove this string, unnecessary line of code, which again is the last line of code in our very simple basic example. And if I run the script, let's see what the program does. Let's see the output. And let's bring this up. We found the old variable name, we replace it with a new variable name, and now we have new variable name equals 5. We also find the specific line of code, and before that line we inserted this comment changing the following line. And finally, we found the unnecessary line of code, which has been completely removed from our script. Again, when you have a very small script or piece of text, as I have in my code example, you might not have to use string builder. But if this is a massive text or massive script, then using string builder is going to be the correct choice. And just to summarize quickly when you might want to choose StringBuilder: when you have frequent modifications, when you have, let's say, very large or dynamic strings, when you really need to improve your code performance, then it's really worth looking into using StringBuilder. When you have complex string operations as well, this means that when you're dealing with massive XML, JSON or SQL queries, then using StringBuilder might actually help you. And when you should actually avoid using the StringBuilder: when you have very simple or very few modifications, when the operations that you need to perform are actually very small or predictable, and also in some cases where the string immutability is actually required or quite important for safety or clarity, then you should avoid using a StringBuilder. And that is all for me for today. Thank you for watching.